I grew up Catholic, grew up in a Catholic school. You know, we never really talked about sex in school or at home. A lot of it was hush hush. I know we had like a, I remember the guys and the girls getting split up, and we were like in the third grade to talk about it, but I don't remember any of it. So, like, as far as sex education, I had none of it. And I'm reading a book right now, a Christian book about like when to talk to your kids about it. Uh, and like as far as sex education, like what was yours? I've talked to a lot of young Christian women who had kind of the purity culture, and that has its benefits and its drawbacks. And um, so, like, I wish the purity, the way purity was taught to me, you're going to laugh at this, but I was a senior in high school and we had a nun teach us, maybe I was a junior, we had a nun teach us about our conscience, and she gave us a Snapple bottle with a sticker on it. I should have brought it. I found it at my mom's house, but it's like, this is your conscience. And we're supposed to click the Snapple bottle cap to remind us not to have sex and remember that it's our conscience calling. As you can imagine, that didn't really uh, make a great impact, especially when there's tons of girls in class that are already doing it. So, um, my education wasn't great, and I wasn't in the Bible. I mean, I listened to the sermons every Sunday, but I was not in the Bible. And now that I'm in the Bible, I've learned so much more about it, the reality of what my body is made for. So, um, you also, think you gain, like, there's your sex education, there's your family. My parents worked together, so I did not see a complete set of parents. So it was kind of like broken. And my dad remarried. He left when I was 8, and he was with someone else, but they were far away, so I didn't necessarily get to see the demonstration of their marriage. Um, so I just had this distorted image of it. And then I got to high school, and because I didn't have my dad around, I was desperate for a boyfriend and thought if I could just get a boy to like me, then I'd be okay. But I never had any boyfriends in high school. Like, nothing. I had crushes on guys. I like just always felt like that girl that never had a boyfriend. So, and I would blame it on the fact that my dad left, or I'd blame it on the fact that I wasn't skinny enough. Um, and then when I started drinking in my 20s, that's when I would become like the pursuer. I would find a guy and just go for it. And that's the time in my life, my 20s, when it got bad, and it's also my other addictions got bad then, even though I was working at the White House and in Washington. um, my promiscuity became kind of part of my drinking and my overeating addictions. I was just desperate for love, what I thought was love and attention. I was running marathons, but I was still I was like desperate. I look back on it, I was like, oh, I was desperate. Um, I did have a couple boyfriends long term later in my 20s, or a little bit in my mid 20s, but I didn't know how important it was to not have sex before marriage. I just thought you did it because you were in a relationship. I had known, like, oh, you're supposed to stay a virgin until you're married, but I didn't know anything else. Um, I just thought I was free because I could do whatever I want with my body, but I was not. I was giving my body away. Um, and and it's like the more I did that, the more I almost felt out of my body. I didn't feel connected to my body. Well, that makes total sense. And we think it's sexual freedom, but 2 Corinthians 11:14 says Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Right. Because I think I'm free, I can do it with whoever I want. Well, it's not really free. And when it started to really affect me, I was getting into situations with the wrong guys. And it was like going, obviously, if I'm wasted, I'm not available. The guy's not available because he's wasted. It was just not a good situation. So the shame was just constantly building. It just kept coming up more and more and more and more. And I just, ugh. And then the Lord started stepping in. He started to meet me in the darkness with two things. For some reason, I changed my alarm to wake me up to a Christian radio station, which helped tremendously. And then I read Purpose Driven Life, which is by Rick Warren. It's the book that Michael Phelps read in 2015. I mean, I think he was going through treatment for trauma and addiction. And he said, struggling to figure out who he was outside the pool. And that book started, like, I was so drained by politics and the obsession with power. And it was empty. And I wanted to find my purpose. And that book helped me find my purpose. And it helped me buy a Bible and start finding the Lord. I didn't get saved right that minute, actually, but I started to seek the Lord. He started pulling me out of that pit. He took me out of Washington and sent me back to South Bend and went to school for a few months. And then, oh, wow, I end up in treatment because I couldn't take it anymore. I was so sick of myself. But I just want to say to you, those of you that are in the pit right now, you need to know the Lord is near. It doesn't matter how ashamed you are. He will meet you there and he will set you free. And I know that your heart is breaking from what you've done to your body, because I have been there. And I just remember crying out to Jesus when I hit that point, and it was just like, I mean, there were so many other things that I was ashamed of, but like that was the big thing, because it's like I had just given my heart away and my body, and I was just couldn't believe that the Lord would ever forgive me. And he was like, Meredith, I have loved you. I've never stopped loving you. I'm here. So I just want to tell you, right now, if you want to cry out to the Lord, he will save you right in this moment. If you believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and he was raised from the dead to give you new life, you can say out loud, Lord, I'm sick of myself. I want you to be the Lord of my life. And he will save you. But it's got to be from your heart. You can't just sit there and say, yeah, can I do this? Nope, it's not going to work. But that's the bulk of my story, because what happened was when the Lord started delivering me from that, like I was able to work in recovery and work through some of the stuff I'd let the relationships and see the wounds, and a lot of it was addressing my parents' divorce, because that was where that origin of looking for the wrong relationship began, and I really needed to break that. And it wasn't the Lord slowly did it. I had to work through all those relationships. And so you can't just really be like, it's in the past, I'm good. You just can't. You've got to address those. You got to do an inventory. You've got to get with the Lord on them.